And boom, according to that, I am live. Welcome. My name is Hiko Simon. This is Tokyo Tonight. I am going. Don't need that. Good to see you all. It is 10:30 p.m. Japan Standard Time, Sunday evening. Great to see. We've already got a bunch of people in here. We've got Christos, Shubus, Jason, Quint Ranked. And if you're in there, I see we've got 5 viewers. I think I count 4 there. So yeah, if you're in the chat at the moment and you want to say hello, please say hello. It's great to see so many people already in here. Also great to see my Argonauts, Jason, who was just doing a live stream right ahead of this with Tomoko, actually talking about 1980s music. I was sort of popping in and out. I left a couple of comments in the beginning, and then I had to run away to go and set this up and do some other things before I started. So I caught little bits and pieces of it. But yeah, that sounds really fun. So do remember, my Argonauts, not only the best the best sumo commentary on YouTube if you're into learning about Japanese sumo, but now he also has a live show talking about 1980s music with Tomoko. So what could be better than that? Go subscribe. Great to see we've got yeah, so many in here. It's always kind of funny thinking how you're all in different time zones. Japan, New Zealand's, of course, we like to say the first country to see the light. We are the most eastern country in the world, but Japan not that far behind, 4 hours behind New Zealand. So yeah, it's of course middle of the night here, but nice to hear that Shubas is enjoying the summer, the morning there in Panama with a nice cup of coffee, the sunshine. Yeah, it continues to be insanely hot here. It still is like 34, 35. The Niigata today was like 37 degrees. It's like mid-autumn here. So that makes no sense whatsoever. I'm actually going to Seoul, Korea tomorrow. I'll be there between Monday and Friday, so it won't affect the show. I'll be back on Sunday. I guess I'll be able to talk about being in Korea for another week, first time since the pandemic. Just going across there for work, but I am told over there that the daily highs in Seoul are below 30. So just for that alone, I'm packing a bunch of running gear. I'm going to see if I can do some sightseeing running, because I quite enjoy doing that. So I'm looking forward to that being a lot better. Yeah, let's quickly check out. Oh, we've got Erin in there. Good morning to you. Top of the morning to Erin and everybody else. As always, remember, just say my name and it will flash up orange in the chat. And yeah, some people were asking about this before that, yeah, apparently the well, the featured chat, I can only do the public chat for that. I can't do the non-public chat. The chat that I share is non-public. So yeah, I can certainly, it'll show your name flashing orange if you say it. But yeah, anyway, Christos, good to see you, and hope that you can get a good night's sleep soon. Definitely don't have any of Shubas's coffee. Great to see Quint Ranked in there as always. Yeah, my Argonauts again, just off a great live stream there with Tomoko. Great to see you in here, and of course, morning from our moderator. Great to have Aaron with us. Believe in yourself. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Good to see you, a man in Canada. And barbecue. Who's having a barbecue? Oh, Korean barbecue. Yes, Korean barbecue pictures. I'm definitely gonna have barbecue. The main thing I must admit, I am apprehensive about is I have a team in Korea, not who reports to me, just who I work with. But yeah, they want to go out, and you know, Koreans drink, like they drink seriously. And I must admit, I don't not drink, but like I've discovered, I've never been much of a drinker, honestly. I just didn't get that much out of it. It's not like I need alcohol to talk more or to be obnoxious or to, you know, come out of my shell. I find actually when I drink alcohol, it's the opposite. I get sort of sleepy and drowsy. So generally, I really drink lightly now. You know, I'll just have a beer and order a lemonade with it or something like that. It's just yeah, I come from a very hard drinking country, New Zealand. There's not very much to do, so binge drinking, like the UK and probably a bit like Canada and other places, New Zealand's got a hard binge drinking culture, and I was just never into it. I was allowed to drink at home as a kid, so I guess it wasn't stigmatized for me. But yeah, I know when I'm in Korea that I know some of the people on my team will want to take me out as an excuse for them to go drink. Which I'm fine with so long as it's understood. I've messaged ahead, we can go out drinking, but just so you understand, I'm going very light on it lately. Just the health benefits as well, right? So You know, I don't have anything against people who do drink, who feel fine with it, and I don't not drink myself. But yeah, the drinking over there I find a little bit scary. It's very 1990s Japan levels. Still is the way that it appears to me. So yeah, but definitely gonna have some bulgogi, gonna have some pokkum, gonna have some gamshatang and other Korean foods that I like, some chijimi, all of that good stuff. In fact, I had someone ask me, "Hey, where do you want to go out for dinner?" And I said, "I think I can eat." I was about to say, "I can eat any sort of Korean food. It's great food." And my friend said, because last time someone who I took him out for like the live octopus, and he was okay. But would you be okay with that? And I realized immediately, oh, I was about to say I'm okay with any Korean food, and I just realized, no, I don't want to eat live octopuses that can like grab onto your throat and suffocate you from the inside. No, they're stir fries, barbecue's good. A bit of a stereotype. That is the thing as well. I must admit, when people come to Japan and I'm going to take them out, there is a funny thing that all the food in Japan is great, and you just end up like not eating, especially in Tokyo. You just don't eat Japanese food that often. You'd think coming to Japan you're going to eat like sushi every day. I hardly ever eat sushi, and sometimes when people say, I say, hey, what do you want to go out for lunch for? And they say, oh, just take me to some Japanese place, just whatever sushi place you normally go to. And I suddenly realize, oh my God, I don't normally go to a sushi place. I have to ask, hey, is there a good sushi place around here? And I can find one, but yeah, it's kind of funny. Normally we like have pasta or something. Yeah, I feel like in Korea as well. I mean, maybe I don't want to be too gaijin saying take me to a hamburger, although I'm sure they'll have good hamburgers there. So maybe I can figure that one out at some point. Oh, kimchi jjigae, very nice. Oh, we got, oops, I'm wrong chat box. Let me, boom. Oh, what did I just do? No, that's not what I meant to do. Hang on a sec. We've lost the chat. Okay, I can fix this. Here, this one. Okay, there we go. So yeah, Kerberos Tenshi. This is what I meant to say. Back from the car meet in Germany. What sort of cars? Were they Japanese cars? Were they German cars? Were they Russian cars? Were they Trabants? East German cars. That would be pretty cool. I mean, you know, cool in a kind of retro showboy kind of a way. Whoa. Purple Rain. It's my iPhone background screen color. I should change that so that it feels like I bought a new iPhone without spending like $1,500 and you know, having to donate an organ. But yeah, who else we got? Might be back in a bit, says Jason. That's fine. Definitely kimchi jjigae, very yummy indeed. Shubas, no alcohol since 1985. Congrats on that. Yeah, I mean, you know, and certainly it's one of those things that, yeah. If you get to a point where you need to avoid it, you should. And this is something again where I like. I like how the culture in Japan is eased up. That it's not forced anymore. And, you know, where I would be self-conscious about drinking extremely lightly, it makes it easier for people that shouldn't drink or can't drink or, you know, choose like not to drink entirely. And I think that's a really positive thing. So congrats to you since 1985. Wow. So yeah, anyway, let's jump in on Kerberos Tenshi, mostly Japanese cars, but some others as well. Finally, it was an Itasha Trabant there as well. That'd be pretty cool, actually. I mean, honestly, who else? Everybody's going to have a Sylvia like Itasha, or, you know, there are certain cars which are always going to be Itasha. But yeah, showing up in a Trabant Itasha, that's something that you can only see in Eastern Germany. That'd be kind of cool. I respect that. There's the comment there from Kerberos Tenshi. So with all of that said, let's jump into the topics because you know we never get that far through it, and I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the airport. I'm looking forward to that, but it's going to be rough. And also tonight, I mean, right now South Africa is playing Romania. That's not much of a game. I've been enjoying the Rugby World Cup because I'm of course a rugby fan. Two really great games coming up. Even if you're not interested in rugby, if you want a good, well, what I hope will be good sort of games. Of course, yeah, there are the big matchups to come in the quarterfinals and the semifinals, but two games tonight to look out for tonight, Japan time. Coming up in the next few hours. First of all, Australia is playing Fiji. Australia should beat Fiji, but Fiji are like the Harlem Globetrotters of international rugby. They are the most spectacular team in the world. I wish they would win more often, but they actually beat England. They beat one of the top countries in the world in the warm-up games. Not really an indication to this, but Australia's not doing that well at the moment, and Fiji's doing really well. So there's a chance of an upset, a small chance, but there's a chance. And Fiji are great to watch. So I think if you want to watch a game that gets you into rugby and that shows rugby at its best, at its most exciting, with lots of running and big tackles and big guys, definitely Fiji versus Australia. And I'll definitely be rooting for Fiji on that, although I think I'll be asleep. I'll probably watch that on the way to the airport. And then after that, Japan versus England. England, when it comes to rugby, are kind of, poor old England. They invented all these great sports so that we could beat them with them. England is really, really strong. They're always like one of the, basically, even when they're not in the top 4 countries, they always show up. They always turn up at the World Cup. And, as a New Zealander, where we take pride in how we play rugby, we try to play beautiful rugby, the same as the French. England plays ugly rugby. They play boring, ugly, soul-crushing rugby, but they're very good at it, and they win. And, there's a thing that basically they play defense. And they don't pass the ball very much. They don't run very much. They just kick and grind teams out and just destroy their spirits. But they're good at it. And rugby generally, as like with American football, strong defensive teams are usually better than strong attacking teams. And New Zealand tries to be all round. But England can beat us with their defense. And Japan is an attacking team. They're really cool to watch. And remember, Japan has upset beaten South Africa 2 World Cups ago, and Ireland, which is actually right now the #1 ranked team in the world, and was similar back then in the 2019 World Cup. So yeah, so the game at 3 a.m. Japan time, which again I'm going to watch when I wake up on the way out to the airport on streaming. But Japan versus England, I mean that'd be like another upset of the century for Japan. But Japan's capable of it, so I'm really looking forward to that. And honestly, I hope Japan wins, not only because I support Japan, but just because I don't want a team as boring as England to win. There is a New Zealand joke from like 20 years ago from a World Cup where we used to have a player called Jonah Lomu who was like, he could run 100 meters in 10.3 seconds, but yet he was like 6'4" and he weighed like 200 pounds, like 120 kilos or something ridiculous. And he was just unstoppable. And the joke was that New Zealand was playing against England. And, at halftime, New Zealand had scored 70 points, every point scored by Jonah Lomu. So the halftime talk, they said, look, Jonah Lomu, you're doing so well. We're going to leave you to handle the English team, and we're just going to go up the pub. And so they go up the pub, and, hours later, Jonah walks into the pub, ashen-faced. And they ask him, Jonah, what was the final score? And he says, it was 120 points to 3. And they, enraged, the players asked Jonah, how did you let them score 3 points? 3 points, by the way, indicating that a penalty kick, or a kick goal, not a try. And he says, I got sent off 30 minutes before the end of the game. The idea being that England's is so boring that, yes, the whole, even with the other team kicked off the field, all that they know how to do is kick a field goal. So yeah, my dad's a British citizen, love England, all of that. But my dad's also born in Fiji, by the way, so I claim that more to support Fiji. Love for England, English people, but I really hope your rugby team loses. Even though, I mean, there's no way, right? The smart money, of course, is on England, but go Japan. Be a great David Goliath match coming up. So some great rugby coming up, and it's been a great World Cup so far. New Zealand, of course, getting beaten by France. My pick, for those who are interested, is that South Africa just looks devastating right now. They look like, at the moment, like there's a gap between them and the other teams. The dream final would be the host country France against South Africa. And if France shows up, they can beat anybody, but they're unpredictable. They play bad games randomly. So they very seldom get through. It's why they've never won a World Cup. But it'd be the fairy tale for France to win. But France looks like South Africa looks devastating right now. So yeah, it'd be good to see anyway. And South Africa, of course, playing Romania tonight, in fact, at this moment, which I expect they'll destroy Romania. So yeah. Anyway, that's a thing that's happening. In terms of Japanese politics, it's been interesting this week. Now this is, I guess, in kind of reverse order. Kishida has been suffering in the polls with the My Number system disaster, with the Fukushima wastewater release. whichever with everything else, his support for his cabinet and his basically he's got like 30% approval ratings, 45% disapprove ratings, which would sound bad, except in spite of that, the largest the LDP has only 30% support, with 47% none of the above. The biggest opposition party is the Osaka should be in charge of everything party, which doesn't have any particular ideological agenda, and they're like 6%. And then the Democrats, the normal number two party, are like 4% support. So, as usual, everybody's unanimous that the LDP is terrible, and the only thing worse is literally everybody else. With Kishida hoping to revive his approval ratings, I guess he thought he'd do a cabinet reshuffle. He'd reappoint his entire government. But he didn't reappoint anyone associated with my number or the Fukushima thing or anything like that. In fact, he pretty much just ignored the whole sort of public, pretty much. He put in, I've got some other tweets which I'll come to, talking about how he appointed all the vice ministers were all men. A record number of women in cabinet posts, 5, but still kind of disappointing in all sorts of different ways. And so a poll like a couple of days after a cabinet reshuffle where he should be going back up, and approval ratings again finds 51% of people want him to quit as soon as possible, while only 12% of people want him to hang on for as long as possible. So he's basically not very popular right now in Japan. That's a thing. Hey, is this my life? Hi from Sweden. Good to see you, Sweden. Thank you for joining, and thank you for saying hello there in the chat. Going on, I mean, this looks like it's from Star Wars. These Starlink satellites, of course, a big topic this week about Elon Musk and the cutting off Starlink satellites over Crimea when the Ukrainians were launching an attack on the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Of course, that was a long time ago. Now those satellites over Crimea are in fact controlled by the US military, I understand, and they basically let the Ukrainians have at it, which is leading to the wonderful results of the Black Sea Fleet being completely wiped out by a country with no navy at the moment. The fact that they got that submarine and that what is it, a landing ship in dry dock. Really, really great to see how Ukraine's making progress in spite of having like no air force and no navy against like the second biggest military in the world. I can only imagine when they start getting the deliveries of extra ammunition and F-16s and stuff like that, they're probably going to liberate all of their country that's been occupied by Russia, including Crimea and Donbass, which will be great for them. So good to see. But just in the meantime, I love space stuff, and this is just cool watching these sort of satellite launches. This guy, just a random thing. This guy, Naoki Hyakta, he was appointed by Abe. So I always pointed out about Abe. Abe was a good professional politician. He had extreme right-wing views, which he would let slip sometimes. He wanted to have no immigration in Japan. He wasn't sorry about the war or anything like that. And, he had extreme personal views, but he never let them infect being a good, he never amended the Constitution, even though everyone thought that he would. But if you want an indication of what his general personal ideology was, and by the way, I credited Abe. Abe increased immigration. He increased women in government. He did a lot of things to be more liberal when he was prime minister in positive ways. But he had very strong, very unpleasant personal beliefs, which is why I never liked him as a person. So someone who was interviewing Naoki Hyakta was appointed by Abe to be in charge of NHK, Japan's version of the BBC. And I forget why exactly, but thank heavens he basically had to resign after like a few months because, he's just such a drooling maniac person. But the interview, which was sort of captured here and translated by this person, basically was just saying that, pretty horrible stuff about Korean people, saying that there are no good Korean people. I've got my father's war sword stashed at the back of our wardrobe, and we should just wipe them all out. This guy was appointed by Abe to be in charge of the NHK. Complete maniac. That's funny. I don't know why that shows up next. That's because I retweeted Jason's live show that was on before this. So it came up in my media links, I guess. But that's a thing that happened. Abe didn't get the best hair award though. Like button duly smashed. Yes, indeed. Aaron reminding everybody the important thing. You'll notice there's no ads on this. This is not monetized. I just do it for likes. I do appreciate the likes, so thank you for those as always. Interesting news tonight as well. There's a big green belt apparently between like Shibuya and Yoyogi, and 189 trees, which the Shibuya government thought, yeah, those are annoying. Let's cut them all down. To which the government, or basically Shibuya residents, protested against the Shibuya government, and they backed down. Apparently, some of the trees, they thought the roots were upsetting the concrete and the footpaths and stuff, but they realized that's not all the trees. Given what's happening right now with the big protests in Gaien and so on, Meiji Jingu Gaien, that of course Rochelle Kopp's been very involved in, opposing the redevelopment there, mainly because it could endanger Ichonamiki. I actually ran through Ichonamiki. It is one of the nicest places in Tokyo. I used to walk my son there to preschool, when he was small, and it's crazy that those huge ginkgo trees that they might not survive, on top of all the other things associated with that redevelopment. I am in favor of redevelopment in Tokyo in general, and I think I've done a show talking about this with Rochelle, but certainly doing any sort of development that, on top of being kind of fugly, actually might result in killing this whole row of trees is just ridiculous. In a city, and given that that the governor of Tokyo used to be the environment minister, and she seems to be, Chainsaw McDuggan, running around. What was it? Hacksaw Jim Duggan. God, I remember 1990s WWF wrestler names. She's Hacksaw Jim Duggan, chopping down trees. Not that you do that with a hacksaw, I suppose, but she would. So yeah, doing it wrong in every way, the Tokyo governor, and she might get forced to back down. Similarly to the Shibuya government. So good to see that they did the right thing anyway. NHK, Eric Bailey, good to see Eric Bailey. NHK is just a kind of friendlier version of the Yakuza. Let's not all be offended that this jackass was chosen to run the Hikuzaiman. Well, he certainly wasn't chosen to run the Hikuzaiman. You'd know if he was running me, but yeah, he definitely wanted to exert editorial control over NHK. When you can see what his editorial thoughts are, again, thank heavens that didn't happen. But sure, in terms of money collection, if you wanted a guy who would literally like kneecap people to get them to pay their NHK fees, I mean, they found the right person. They literally got someone who would probably create concentration camps for people who don't pay NHK fees. So there's that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what you're talking about, Eric Bailey. I mean, NHK is like most, like PBS or BBC. It's pretty liberal as media goes. Yeah, let me just put the old aircon. It is too hot, and I don't want to get sweaty because I got to get on a plane tomorrow. So I'm going to turn this on to quiet mode. Japanese aircons, best in the world because these are heat pumps, so they're very energy efficient. Although, of course, Tokyo having too many of them and too many people is what contributes to the huge heat island that we have at the moment. But yeah, how could you start? I hadn't started. The show's starting now. We were waiting for you. I was just jabbering. Basically, I was filibustering, waiting for you to arrive, Eric Bailey. And now that you are here, now the show is officially starting. Them, I meant to say them. I don't understand what you're talking about, but there we go. More trees, less concrete. Well, indeed, it's good for cooling everything down anyway. But yeah, Japan does have some forests that are too dense indeed. It's got the mountains in Japan are so rugged, you just can't get to a lot of it. And so you can't manage the forest. In fact, it's amazing in a way that Japan doesn't have more of a forest fire problem. I guess it's the humidity and the rain from half the year. But given how dense the forests are here, of course, this is what's happening with Canada and America is these dense, poorly managed forests are partly increasing the fire risk. But for whatever reason, Japan just doesn't get the fires that they get over there. But yeah, anyway, next story that we've got here is an interesting Kyoto news poll that going around particularly rural prefectures, which are suffering from huge depopulation. 80% of people overall feel like it's either either necessary, or if I was to say one way or the other, more necessary than not to increase the number of foreigners. And in fact, beyond more than that, respondents from Shimane and Kochi prefectures, which are experiencing particular depopulation at the moment, responded 100% that Japan needs more foreign residents. which is factual for a start, although it's always interesting to see that, this is actually becoming popular opinion as well. People are recognizing this. And again, what I would say, the reason that I've been so scathing about Japan's apprenticeship visa scheme and the huge abuse that happened under it is that Japan is in a population crisis. It will need to attract foreigners to survive, to pay for the pensions and to pay taxes, to sustain all the people who are sort of working right now. And they're not going to want to come here. I mean, Japan's bad enough that their currency is losing value, of course, and wage competitiveness is going down. But when the people who come here, the wayfarers, the people who are here supposed to, to create the communities for Vietnamese, and other workers in Japan are suffering sort of abuse at the hands of workers, and the government's doing nothing to protect those foreign workers. That's going to destroy Japan's reputation as a place to come and live and work, and that is going to have a direct negative impact on this. So that's why I apart from the fact, obviously, it's just wrong to abuse people and to then not do anything to protect people from abuse. On top of that, it's going to damage Japan's chances of attracting the foreign residents that it needs, and that is now increasingly recognized. So yeah. My Argonauts, there's the show that he just did and shouted out earlier. Do remember, go subscribe to his channel if you want to go catch the 1980s music talk with Tomoko Des. So good to see that. But trees better than people, says Eric Bailey. I don't know. I'm pretty sure. I mean, have you ever talked to a tree? Well, yes. Have you ever talked to a tree? And if you did it talk back? And if it talked back, was it an asshole? There'd be so many problems to go through with a psychologist if all of those, if you checked all of those boxes. Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall for explaining that to a therapist. So yeah, you're right. Probably trees are better than people. I can't. Now that I think about it, I can't argue against that. Vincent Birch, mate. Off topic, is that a Kiwi mate or is that an Australian mate? Either way, nice to see a mate. Mate, off topic, but how far will our All Blacks? Oh, our All Blacks, it's a Kiwi. Good to see you. How far will our All Blacks go in France this year? Well, we have a huge problem. Now, given that we lost to France in the opener, we are going to play South Africa almost without question in the quarterfinal. And South Africa not only is looking impenetrable at the moment, but, they also completely wiped the floor with us in the friendly warm-up game, which, again, I don't read too much into South Africa. Those warm-up games, we deliberately don't show our hand for the World Cup in those games. So I think as a New Zealander, I believe one of the weaknesses we've had in previous World Cups is that we never lose games. And I think it means that, we're not psychologically prepared for being under the pressure that we get into in World Cups. I think having lost a few games, having lost to Ireland, having lost to Argentina, having lost to South Africa, getting thrashed by South Africa, I think it's good for the team to have that in our minds as something that we need to realize is a possibility, because I think the self-belief is great, but I think it causes our brains to explode when we discover that we're losing, which is always during World Cup. So I'm hoping that the team is now conditioned to understand the possibility of loss and to fear it and to really play properly. So I think my heart says that if we beat South Africa in the quarterfinal, then New Zealand will make it to the final, where we will play France. And I believe on our second game against France, even in France, we would beat France. Although with France against New Zealand, France has a great record against New Zealand. But I think if we can beat South Africa, we can go all the way. But there again, if I was like an investment advisor and I was asking somebody was asking me who should they put their money on. And I really liked the person. I couldn't tell anyone in good faith to bet on New Zealand in the quarterfinal against South Africa. I think South Africa is going to beat us probably by 20 points. That's where the money would be to someone else. I would bet on New Zealand, and I think we can do it. And I do think if we do beat them, that we can go all the way. But the quarterfinal is going to be like our grand final, and it could be our last game. So that's my opinion on that. Vince Birch from Taranaki, mate. Nice. I used to live in Waihuru. I've mentioned this before. So, we'd drive over, Wanganui way. I've never been to New Plymouth. Back when I was a kid, it was still called Wanganui, but of course that was us mangling the correct name, Whanganui. So I should call it that. But we used to go along Whanganui River Pipariki, Jerusalem, or that area out to, again, it used to be Mount Egmont. But beautiful part of the country where you are. Vincent Birch is from where they shot The Last Samurai, and they needed to get a stand-in for Mount Fuji, and they found it. We have an exact replica of Mount Fuji in New Zealand. A bit shorter, but looks exactly the same. Still like 8,500 feet. It's a good mountain. So, yeah, good stuff. I don't know. That's my take. But damn, I don't know if we can topple South Africa. Good answer. Nice, I'll take that. I mean, honestly, I've been away from New Zealand for 25 years. I have no authority to talk on rugby. I watch it, I enjoy it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, eh? Quinn Rankin, you here before start time. It never showed you that it was live. You reloaded the page. Oh, geez, that's annoying. I don't know why that is. Custos, mate. Another mate. Can't Shinto priests get away with talking to trees? Why not the rest of us? Hey, good point indeed. I mean, I think when a Shinto priest talks to a tree, the whole area within 100 meters becomes tax-free. So that's the thing. People practically encourage it. Hey, Sadiq, glad that you can make it. Our man in Florida. Message retracted. Well, hey, Tokyo. Hey, back at you. I don't know why you retracted hello, Tokyo, but believe me, Tokyo says hello back even if you've lost confidence in the question. This is kind of funny. Despite X's rebrand, 69% of its US users are still calling it Twitter. I'm surprised it's only 69%, although that is a funny number. So, yeah, good pick. If they were just making up the number, it is tube filter, so who knows? 69%. But yeah, I'm surprised anyone calls it. Oh, nice. Better emoji there. Yeah, that's definitely an upgrade, Sadiq. Well done. I mean, seriously, like posts, X. I mean, seriously, like I said, I still think that he's trying to burn it down for the money. That's my interpretation. Yeah, we've got helmet wearing among Tokyo cyclists. So, of course, it's tripled to 13.5%, which means before it was, what, 3% or something? Less than 3%, 2 point something percent. I mean, so yes, it's basically, as I look around, occasionally I see somebody wearing a helmet, but very, very rarely. It is that situation. It is actually mandatory, but there is no penalty. And I've heard people say, well, if there's no penalty, then it's not mandatory. But it is mandatory. And what they do in Japan, they're very nice with laws. In New Zealand and Australia, when they pass a law, they immediately have, police can tase you immediately as soon as this law becomes effective. In Japan, they're really nice. They say that, we're going to do a couple of poster campaigns. We're going to get some mascots. We're going to get some TV celebrities, definitely not from Johnny's. And we're going to try to encourage voluntary cooperation. And when about like 90% of people are cooperating, then we're going to put in a modest, penalty in there just so that we can ease everybody into it. And that's how they do a lot of these things in Japan. It's what they did with smoking. It took a long time. But I do think the voluntary participation thing is a good way to do it. And yeah, I haven't ridden a bicycle since coming back from America, but I brought a helmet back with me, so I'd be ready to go on that. But yeah, anyway, slowly, the voluntary participation is slowly taking up. Like X, come talk to me. Yes, that's right. When you finish this, follow me on X. I mean, it sounds like a placeholder, doesn't it? It is one of the dumbest rebrandings I've ever heard of. Rugby, great to see, of course. Portugal played great against Wales. Chile played great in 2 games against Japan, and the game against Samoa. Samoa, well, they kicked in the second half, but they weren't looking so good. So great to see new teams doing well. So yeah, I'm definitely enjoying the Rugby World Cup. Okay, back to the reshuffle because I was waiting for this to come up in my feed. Yeah, JFC. So while Kishida appeared to sort of his choices for new cabinet were a little bit baffling. There were 5 women in cabinet posts, and that was good. But then when he appointed the 54 vice ministers, all of them men, 100% men, and on top of that. It gets worse. 26 of the 54 newly appointed vice ministers, all of whom are men, are self-declared having cult ties to the Unification Church cult, which was trying to infiltrate and influence Japanese politics. So not only are they all men, but they're cult supporters as well. In fact, these could very well be their cult uniforms. They might not even really be suits. I don't know. But you're talking about somebody who really just doesn't care. In fact, I swear, Japanese politics, I think, is dated reference, I know, but the movie Brewster's Millions, go watch it. It's Richard Pryor gets, he inherits like $100 million, but in order to inherit the $100 million, he has to spend, he gets $5 million in like 1978, and he's got a week to spend it all, and he's not allowed to tell anybody that he's got to get rid of it all. He just has to look irresponsible with it. And there's a whole bunch of rules around it, and it makes him miserable. And it's this movie about this person trying to get $100 million by spending $5 million in a week in 1978. So, and I do feel like, and not to the whole movie, he's basically self-destructing, and nobody can understand why he's like, he starts a political campaign and then he runs. None of the above. He tries to lose on purpose because he finds out that the political campaign's a great way to waste money. I really swear, Kishida, I think he is like Brewster's Millions. He's trying to figure out how to take the fact he's got no opposition and still lose. He's trying to do everything he can. He's basically just dancing and flipping off the whole country, and they're still voting for him. So there you go. So that is a thing that is happening. Yes, the Warriors. New Zealand has a rugby. New Zealand has two forms of rugby. The other is the Warriors. I actually used to work for the Warriors when I was at university, and when they were a brand new team, and they're doing really well at the moment. So yeah, really great to see them well, and great to see the public showing up for them in New Zealand and getting lots of support. The perennial LDP bridesmaid. I know you might look at Shigeru Ishiba and not. Bridesmaid probably isn't the first word that comes into your head, but he is. He's always basically left at the altar. He's always number two. He never gets elected leader, even though he keeps going for it. But he suggested Captain Obvious straight after the 26 cult members and 54 person sausage party and the vice minister posts. He said, you know what? We should have a quota for list members who join the LDP so that we have more people to choose from, so that we can put them into government posts so that we don't look so bad. I was like, yeah, thank you, Captain Obvious. I mean, again, more face palming for how, yes, thank you once again. Anyway. Eric Bailey, Gigi's be breaking the law, but you're the only one that gets scolded by the popo. If the police, yes, thank you for that, Eric Bailey. I think you've really enhanced our understanding of the subject. I don't know what you're talking about, but anyway. Yeah, lots of stuff happening there. Aaron, I think, Aaron, you also put it very well there. Traveling Gabriel, why have the All Blacks dropped in the world rankings? Because we suck. Because we got thrashed by South Africa right before the World Cup. We got beaten by Argentina earlier this year. We got beaten by France in the start of the World Cup. And the World Cup rankings, the world rankings in rugby are accurate at the moment. We're not the best team. South Africa, I think, just after their win the other day, became the top team in the world. Although Ireland is number 2, and they're both great teams. And right now, on form, South Africa is way ahead of everybody. I'm really looking forward, though, to playing them in the quarterfinal, and I really hope that New Zealand can change things around, but that's what's happening there. Ishiba, we will pull out the world's tiniest violin for you. Yeah, I think he's getting used to the idea that he's always going to be number 2, but there you go. Oh, I actually have my picks for the World Cup, so here we go. Quarterfinals, again, Australia will play and beat Argentina. South Africa will beat New Zealand. Ouch, don't like to say that. I hope we can change that. But England will beat Wales and France will beat Ireland. Semi-final, South Africa will thrash Australia, Australia's got the softest run because Australia's trash at the moment. They are not good. And I really hope Fiji beats them. And that's Fiji there. But man, Fiji plays South Africa. Oh God, that'll be so horrible. I love Fiji. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. And France would beat England, and then the final would be South Africa, France. But I'm hoping that New Zealand could get in there and play France in the final. We'll see. So there are my predictions for the World Cup there. Yeah, we'll see what really happens. Yeah, when this first came out, there's a famous Yes Minister. If you've never heard of the TV show Yes Minister, you have to Google it. It's a 1970s BBC show, but it still is completely relevant today, and it's actually more relevant for Japan, perhaps even than the UK now. It's just basically how bureaucrats run the government and how they manipulate government ministers, and it's one of the funniest, cleverest comedies ever on television. In any country in the world, it's better than Seinfeld. And there's a thing where all the government department heads in the British government are meeting, talking about how they're all very supportive of equality and having more women in government, except in their particular department because of the particular circumstances of their department. But they're fully supportive of it in principle. And they sort of go at the end, and we need to emphasize to our ministers that while we need this for more diversity, I couldn't think of a more diverse group of people than ourselves. Yes, a real cross-section of society, basically a room full of old Cambridge and Oxford men in the UK. But perennially, it was seriously, it's like real life Japan is like a rerun, a remake of the series Yes Minister. So yeah. Oh, you're talking about the the helmet law. Sorry, I slapped and see myself. I get it. If the police, well, the police are being very nice about it right now anyway. Like I say, wait till the mascot comes out, and in Japan the mascots won't tase anybody, so it should be pretty good. More thoughts on rugby that I've shared enough on rugby for tonight, but I am enjoying the World Cup, and you should go and enjoy it too. There are some great games coming up today. There is a channel on YouTube that I watch. Basically, they sort of retell the plot of certain action, like for example Jean-Claude Van Damme and in this case Bruce Willis movies as the best movie ever, and they kind of like mistakenly retell the entire plot, like the Nakatomi Tower hijacking was done by a bunch of Lakers fans, is the sort of the plot story that they go with by taking quotes out of context. And they're very anti-Steven Seagal. Every Steven Seagal movie is the worst movie ever, and he goes through he does whole, like, again, incorrect plot summaries of Steven Seagal movies, just making fun of Steven Seagal. You should watch this. This was particularly good. Actually, it wasn't just good that how dumb it was, but there's a lot of clever, dumb references in this particular one about all the reasons why Die Hard is the best movie ever. Best Christmas movie ever as well, it must be said. Again, when I need to be less intelligent, I watch this, and it works. It works very, very well. Interesting stuff going on, of course, with Kim Jong Fat Guy Un. He has been visiting Russia, where Russia's been begging North Korea to sell it shells so that it can continue illegally invading and killing countries and stealing land and killing people. To which North Korea is like, all we need is a couple of ICBMs and some of your cool stuff. So they seem to be doing a tour, seem to be best friends, the only friends each other seem to have at the moment. I must admit, I'm seeing US sort of dismiss that North Korea could really have any impact on the war in Ukraine, which is definitely lately. I'm following Ukraine news every day, and it is great to see the impact of support, and how Ukraine's making, remarkable progress to kicking Russia's ass, as they deserve to have kicked. I do think that when the F-16 start going, that's going to make a really big difference. But so great to see the Russians really getting the floor wiped with them at the moment. But at the same time, frustrating to see that any country would help Russia prolong something that they shouldn't be doing, and for Russians' own sake. Again, I also subscribe to Russian YouTube channels that do pop vox things, and and while there's a lot of messed up people in Russia who support what they're doing, there's also a lot of good, like any country, there's a lot of normal people there. I don't want Russians to die, but I don't, but there again, they shouldn't be in Ukraine. So, and the fact that NK might be prolonging it is frustrating. I was thinking myself, actually, when I land tomorrow, I've got half a day in Korea. It's a public holiday in Japan tomorrow, respect for the elderly day. So I'm not going to be working when I land in Korea, and I'm just thinking, I think I'll go for a run. That's my plan. But I was thinking, should I go up to Panjamun? Should I go up to the demilitarized zone? I actually looked it up, and it said that it's closed at the moment. I don't know if that's just because of the weekend. But I must admit, I'd be kind of curious to go up and see the border. I've eaten in a North Korean restaurant in China. I was taken there by my Chinese colleagues. I didn't go out of my way to do it, but it was a good experience. I got to spend the night talking with North Koreans. You can, of course, meet North Koreans in Japan as well, but of course, they're North Koreans who are born and raised in Japan and don't really know North Korea all that well, although they do sometimes go on school trips and stuff over to North Korea. But to meet a North Korean and get to speak with them for the evening, stuff like that was kind of cool. Yeah, I'm not sure right now it's the best time to go visit. Anyway, you talk about, I mean, when Bush was talking about the axis of evil, I feel like that was such a more innocent time. The fact that it's really becoming a cartoon version of the future that was being talked about then is just insane to me. So yeah, remember, if you've got something that you want me to respond to, I can't read each comment like one by one, but if you say my name, I will. It'll flash up orange in the comments there, and I will pay particular attention to it. So yeah, please let me know if there's anything you want me to talk to. If you've got any topic requests or questions or whatever, and I will do that. But otherwise, I'm going to keep charging through. I just had a random thought as well. Given how Russia's getting its ass more and more kicked in Ukraine at the moment, I must admit, I'm just thinking out loud. I wonder if anyone in Japan's actually war gamed a scenario of just taking back those the 4 islands that that Russia occupies. For what it's worth, I think they sometimes misunderstand this. Japan doesn't claim all the islands between Kamchatka Peninsula and Hokkaido. They only claim the bottom 4. In fact, the Habomai Islands and I think it's a Kunashiri are like directly, like they're immediately, you can swim literally across. They're so close. You can see them from out of your window. You can see what's currently occupied by Russia, and those were inhabited islands. Those were islands where people lived, and those refugees live in a town called Nemuro. In fact, there's something talking about that later on in here. So Russia. The argument was that in the Potsdam Agreement, when everyone agreed that Russia would get back the Kurila Islands, it didn't include the 4 bottommost islands that are right beside Hokkaido. Those are part of Hokkaido, the rest of the Kurila Islands. Russia interpreted it differently and took all the islands and kicked all the people off, and actually deported Ukrainians to go and live on those islands in place of the Japanese that they kicked off. So yeah, they literally ethnically cleansed the islands and deported Ukrainians who were victims, of course, of the Holodomor, of the internal repression of Stalin after World War II. He deported Ukrainians to Siberia, and some of them he put on these islands off Japan. And yeah, so basically, they occasionally make a show of driving some trucks and raising a flag on the islands just to remind Japan that, hey, we won the war, we still got the islands. But right now, given how depleted Russia is, it really wouldn't take very much to get the islands back. Japan wouldn't do it. It's against the constitution, all sorts of stuff. But it is occupied just the same as Crimea is, just the same as South Ossetia, just the same as lots of other places that Russia's occupying. And Japan, Russia's been kind of proven to be kind of a fake threat. I mean, yes, they do have nuclear weapons. Those are still real. But in terms of its military prowess, it's kind of been proven to be false, just like Japan proved when it beat Russia, of course, in 1905. So they probably could take them back. And I find it hard to believe that no one in government or the self-defense forces has at least, like tabletop, played out how they would do it, even though they're not going to do it. But yeah, interesting to consider. Melanie Brock, our Australian political commentator in Japan, of course, very disappointed at the lack of representation in the cult member dominated, not cult member, but cult member supported vice minister posts. So yes, kind of a step backwards there. Taking a quick look at the, hey, we got DJay Sunnyside up there in the comments. Good to see you there. Boom. Hello, beautiful people. Hello, beautiful person right back. DJay Sunnyside up. Nice to have you there in the chat. Oh, we got Hoosiers. Who's a Hoosier? Hoosiers are like that part, like in North Michigan, right? I think I've heard that before. Anyway, so yes, Minister. Oh, this post. We must promote the best man for the job, regardless of their sex. And this is exactly what's been happening. This is one of the funniest, cleverest shows ever, and it's just... it still is hilarious. Highly recommended to check that out. Oh yeah, we had an earthquake in the middle of a huge downpour storm the other day. That was cool. It was like a storm quake. That's a thing that happened. Yes, given the heat, I actually welcome all typhoons and rain at the moment. I mean, I know it's going to get cold all of a sudden, but damn. So, oh yeah, so the Hanshin Tigers, the perennial losers, the Osaka baseball team, they won the Central League of Baseball or something. I don't actually follow Japanese baseball all that much, but yeah, someone I think the best summary of this was what I retweeted, which was that yeah, everything you need to know about Osaka in one photo. So the backstory here is, of course, they have this terrible baseball team that loses all the time, and the last time they won was 18 years ago, which I was here for. And at that time, Osaka has this famous river that goes through the Dotonbori River, which goes through the middle of Osaka, and it is one of the most polluted waterways in the world. If you like jump into that river and you don't die, you're gonna catch like 5 different types of STDs. It is literally like people have been so with the anticipation that if the Hanshin Tigers were to beat the Tokyo Yomiuri Giants of all teams to take the championship from, if they were to beat Tokyo and win the baseball pennant this week, that last time, every time it's happened, always people go jumping into this river. They go jumping off these fences, off these bridges in the middle of Osaka into the Dotonbori. And multiple people drown every time that it happens, which is only like twice in the last 100 years or something. As well as that people just act stupid and do stupid things to celebrate. So the Osaka like local news ahead of the game was saying, okay, if we win, and we're not saying that we're going to win, but if we do win, please remember that if you jump into that river and you don't drown, it's basically the equivalent of jumping into a loaded toilet. Like, you don't want to do it. And the police started putting out these PSAs: people do not jump into the river. And ahead of the game, they started putting up these big barriers all around the central Osaka, around the Dotonbori, and they started basically having the full sort of riot police mobilization, all just to stop people jumping in to this river, celebrating their crappy team winning the pennant. And Osaka responds. So you talk about F the police. I mean, this is Osaka. Everyone showed up and people jumped in, and yes, I mean that is definitely ooh. I mean, but there again, look, everybody here's happy for him. Here's the police, and there's the toilet reflecting there. It's just basically, I don't know. He probably would be developing new types of herpes jumping in there. But they won, and it's not gonna. By the time they win again, I'm sure that the antibiotics would have started working. So, and he gets that is a very good photo. And this is literally as the reposter, because we're not supposed to say retweet. The retweeter said everything you need to know about Osaka in one photo. Kustos, what percentage of J politicians are actually women? Maybe for next time. I've seen the list by parties. The Komeito party, the Sokogakai religious cult party, is like 9%. The LDP is like 10%. I think the communists are like 30%. But yeah, I think overall it's like 15%. It's one of the lowest in the world, which is why Japan is like 5 places ahead of Saudi Arabia in gender equality. And still far ahead, at least 10 places ahead of the Taliban. So yeah, representation in parliament is low. Coming back up, because I missed some comments here. Eric Bailey, Russia is not to be trusted, but they are also not to be underestimated. I underestimate them. They're drunk and they're stupid and they shouldn't have done all this sort of stuff. They fear the world is not prepared for what's to come from them. You fear that the world's not prepared for what's to come to them. They don't give up easily. Well, of course, the big fear is that they might actually drop the bomb on somebody just to prove a point, and that would be awful. But they're bullies. They are acting literally like the Mongols who conquered. I mean, modern Russia is basically an evolution of the Mongol kingdoms in Russia. And if you ever hear about how Russia was taken over by the Mongols, it's pretty much what Putin's doing right now. Be our friend, and we'll give you an important title and treat you well, and if you don't accept complete domination by us, we will destroy you. And that's what the Mongols did. They would go and kill everybody in any village or any small sort of town that opposed them, and they went around Russia. And the only part of Russia that actually said to the Mongols, hey, we're just going to surrender and let you dominate us, And that was Novgorod. And the Mongols said, okay, well, you get to be in charge of all Russia now. So you hold the can, pay us some taxes. That's all you got to do. And you're in charge. You win the lottery, you get everything. And that's Russia. And everyone else who fought back against the Mongols everywhere was exterminated. And that's what the Russians learned from the Mongols. That's their history. And that's what the Soviet Union did. That's what the Russian Empire did. That's what the Soviet Union did. And that's what Putin's doing now. You're right, though. Maybe we are underestimating them, but I'm glad to see them getting their asses kicked because they deserve it right now, and I think we should be doing more. Sainted Sir, hey, indeed, good to have you there in the chat. Aaron, random, but they caught that fugitive. Oh, yes, I heard about that. The Pennsylvania, the short guy. He was hiding in a bush. That's right. The canine firmazole got him. But him, I think you mean bit him in the head. That was the best part. Yes. Yeah, I heard about that. Good stuff. I mean, yes, that must be a big relief, of course. But yeah, I remember the thing about that as well, how he crab walked across a wall out. And I think they had a. There was a headline somewhere that said, "Escapee on the loose, crab walked out of prison." And a lot of people were like, what, a crab escaped from prison? Like, what's the story about? But yeah, it was a classic case of missing a comma. Believe in yourself. I used to watch the IT Crowd. It had its moments. I've seen a couple of episodes, but yeah, I never really got into it. But I know the show. Maybe I should check it out again. Quinn Ranked, Ari Russia. Has anyone ever heard the saying that you can catch more flies with honey? Do you mean like being nice to Russia? Because America, not Japan. Japan never got sucked into being nice. But in terms of everyone else poured money into China during the 1990s, and it didn't work out well. It just created a few oligarchs. And, everyone looks at that time like the honey strategy when Russia democratized, people tried it, and Russia was a huge money hole. And Japan was the smartest country vis-a-vis Russia for not doing it. Oh, are you suggesting that Russia needs to use honey? Russia don't have no honey. Russia has vodka and artillery shells and racism. So I don't know. Do we reckon? By the way, Vincent Burge, do what other people are doing. If you just say my name, you don't have to put the @ mark. Just say my name and it'll flash orange, and I'll pay special attention to it. But thank you for that. Do we reckon Japan is more ready to accept foreigners working in Japan these days? 1,000,000% yes. It knows it needs to accept more workers. It is accepting more workers. It's been slowly, kind of by stealth, accepting a lot more workers. Like over the time that I've been in Japan, which is 25 years now. It's numbers of foreigners here have gone up dramatically. The ease with which you can get visas to work here in all sorts of different ways have improved dramatically. So and the willingness to accept a large foreign population in Japan has also gone up dramatically. So that's my personal take, is that Japan is absolutely willing to take more, and they are. Eric Bailey, the Mongol smart leadership and novel tactics. That's true. The Russians have pure numbers, not a good comparison. Well, no, my point is, though, the Russians are the inheritors of the Mongols. And while the Mongols were kind of good at maintaining like empires and hands-off ways, the way that they established those empires is very much the playbook that Putin, who loves the sort of history, the Golden Horde, all these sort of khanates that dominated Russia, the way that they established this sort of the dominance over Russia, are the tactics that he's using. And you have to understand, like, modern Russia, I'm telling you, is a khanate. It is an inheritor state of the Mongols. They're not a Viking state. The Vikings all fought back and they got wiped out. They talk about Slavic nationalism. They're Mongols, and I love Mongols. I love the wrestlers and everything. But that mentality of that sort of 12th century Mongol mentality is still there in their current tactics and their approaches towards how they establish dominance over their neighbors. It's there. I mean, how they fight wars. You're right. They don't exactly ride in on horses and dominate quickly, but they fight differently. But the idea of submit to us, and we'll put you in charge of everything, and not submit to us, and we'll burn everything, is pretty much what they're doing. Turks are Mongol. I mean, Mongols are everyone. Even Austrians and Hungarians are Mongols, I suppose. And Japanese. Well, it's funny because Japanese, they've got the mokohan, the blue spot on their bums, which is something, if you've got Japanese blood, most people have it, and they call it the old Mongolian spot. It's kind of, there are a few genetic markers of Mongol. So the Mongolians got around. Actually, it was amazing. They conquered the whole Middle East. They got into Scandinavia, they got into Europe, they got all the way out to Japan. So yeah, the Mongols, I mean, they got around. Christos, it wasn't really Mongol. I'm saying that they're the inheritor of that empire. That's a very Anglo-US view. You saw at the start of the conflict from the press. The Russians aren't fully. No. That's not it. I'm saying that the tactics that they're using, they mirror the history. I mean, you listen to Putin. He talks a lot about Russian history, and it's really interesting. By the way, Russian history is fascinating. But to me, the history of and by the way, I love Mongols. What are you talking about? Mongols are cool. But I'm saying that the tactics that they're using are tactics that they are pulling out of the history books, is my interpretation. I'm not saying that Russian people are Mongoloids or anything like that. I'm saying that they're basically the state, the sort of the historical Russia that Putin's trying to revive is a state that was basically established by the Mongols. That's a historical fact, and I'm not saying that to dehumanize them. I'm saying that that's their playbook. And it's an effective one, but it's the influence that the Khanates and that the Golden Horde had on Russian history. I'm not saying that at all to lower them. In fact, the Mongols are the most effective empire in history. Most people, geez, my son has Mongol blood. I mean, what are you talking about? So, this is the whole point. It's not a racial thing at all. It's Russian history, and it's Russia's fascinating history. But Kustos, I reject your take. I'm not saying it at all to lower. If anything, I'm saying it to elevate, actually, just how scary what they're doing is, but also how effective it was. I mean, again, read the history of Novgorod. I mean, this is like 700-year-old history, but it's really fascinating, and it's really they're doing the same thing with Belarus and Ukraine right now. It's literally the Plumo Plata. It's the gangster tactics. It's timeless, the tactics that they're using. But there are parallels in Russian history with what's happening with the way that the Russian Empire was established. Quinn Racket, no, I mean, why Russia doesn't try being nice to people. Yeah, I agree. I mean, at least they kind of pretended to be nice under Lenin. They made some token efforts, and that would be nice. Did the Mongols really rule there? Russia's an Indo-European language. Yeah, but they didn't like I say, they didn't change the religions. They didn't change the ethnicity. They just basically came in and said, so long as you just pay taxes, they let people keep their. That's one thing about, again, while the Mongols were quite liberal and effective role. Remember, they ruled China, they ruled Korea, they ruled Austria. And they did it effectively because they let people keep. They didn't care what religion people were. They weren't looking to force everybody to change their religions. They weren't looking to force everybody to wear their clothes or anything like that. They just said, just recognize that the Khans are in charge, and pay us money when we ask for it, and you're cool. We'll leave you alone. And that's what they did. And that's what they did with Novgorod, and that's what they did with every sort of kingdom that they sort of set up that would pay them taxes. And the ones that didn't pay them taxes, read about what they did in Baghdad. What they did in Russia, actually, what they did in every kingdom in Russia other than Novgorod that put up a fight with them. They're scary to fight against, but they were very liberal as rulers, and that's partly why their empire lasted so long. It's fast. I'm sorry, I love the history. Do I think that Putin will continue to get more aggressive with his progression in age? God, I mean, I hold out hope that he might lose the election next year, but there again, even if he loses, I doubt he'll lose. But also, I watch these Russian Pop Vox TV shows, and I also realize that there's such a chunk of the population that will support him blindly. Even when people, when a large chunk of the population knows he's doing the wrong thing. I hope not. I hope he doesn't go crazy. But I don't know. I don't see much hope there. The only, like I say, as long as Russia can just stick to its own borders and figure itself out internally, like thrashing out at its neighbors is just the wrong way to do things. Eric Bailey, the Russians recognize that they can last longer than US money political will. Given the way the US election is stacking up, they might be right. I agree. Well, it'll be really interesting to see this current bill. Well, if the Republicans win, I mean, it's a question who wins, or who else comes in. But again, the big difference with this is that it's one thing to be contributing money, in a way, it's free money for the American industrial military complex. And usually the counterpoint to that is people saying, but yeah, Americans are dying. Whereas here, Americans aren't even dying. They're just in the end of the day getting long-term, loans that Ukraine's probably going to have to pay back one day. And they're upping military production, which is generally good for US politics. It's hard to think that the Republican opposition to this would hold out, given that the US military probably supports giving Ukraine all the toys. But yeah, certainly I don't doubt that's one angle that Russia's definitely going to be playing, is hoping that they can outlast support for Ukraine. That's definitely been the play from the beginning. But given that right now, the timeline that between now and next year that things will go up, I mean, like I said, I hope that we prove Russia wrong, but you're right, they can hold on for a long time. So yeah, we'll see. Softy Papa, great to see you, Kurt. Nice to see you there in the chat. Eric Bailey, Putin may be like Genghis Khan, but Genghis Khan, but I know Genghis Khan. I've also studied Genghis Khan. Putin is no Genghis Khan. Well, I think he's acting like those old Khans. So I think that's the playbook. I mean, the playbook of Russian history is out of that. I agree with you that he is no Genghis Khan at all, but I think that's how he sees himself. But we'll see. Lose the Russia. What can we do? Thanks for my time. Yeah, sorry if you disagree. You're welcome to disagree. It's definitely not. What can we do? Like I said, I'm happy for Russia to be whatever the hell it wants to be, including, a hopeless dictatorship, just as long as it's not imposing itself on anybody else. Same with America, same with Japan. With that, I'm going to wrap it up. We're here over an hour. It's been a fun week, especially for that person. I hope he's out of the hospital. The Voice in Australia coming up in October. Remember, voting's mandatory in Australia, so I guess I don't need to remind you because you'll get fined, I think, if you don't vote in that. But hoping that Australia can vote yes, personally. I don't understand why you wouldn't, but of course, most referendums in Australia and New Zealand get shot down. So, but what can you do? Vincent Birch, you're bringing up butter. We used to have butter conditioners in our fridges in New Zealand, but now it seems it's not a thing. Do we reckon we need to see those come back? Don't get me started on butter. That's a very sensitive area for me, Vincent Birch. I think they figured out how to formulate the butter now that you don't need them, but I must admit, I like my butter soft. I take my butter out of the fridge and I leave it on the table for like 10 minutes before I ever use it. So, yeah, and whenever I have... I've actually also learned that apparently it's better with carbs to have carbs at the end of a meal rather than the start. So if I have bread, I'd always eat it first before, but lately I'm eating it at the end. I might be wrong about that, but yeah. Also, Queen Danny, nice to have you there in the chat. Polls are nothing. Wrap it up, says PV. Indeed, I'm going to wrap it up. Have a good week, everybody. I am going to leave. Have a good day. Have a good week. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm going to be going in Korea. I hope you have a good week. I'm going to have a good week. I prefer butter on my bed as well. I couldn't think of a better way to wrap up the show. Take care. Watch the rugby. Come back next week and boom. Have a good one. See ya. ASMR wrap from me. Wrap it up. No, that won't work. Okay, ending stream. Boom. And ending.